Good afternoon. May the Lord give you his peace. Amen. A Friday during Lent. Fridays during Lent. I love that. And we had a blood moon at 2:58 this morning. On Friday the 14th. Oh, if only it was Friday the 13th, then we could have really had bad luck, huh? It's science. It's just science, everyone. Calm down. But the readings here are kind of challenging. Every Friday, the readings highlight for us something of the passion of the Lord, and in this case, also the topic of sin. And Jesus says something which would have been so shocking to the people of his day. Basically, you're not getting into heaven unless your righteousness surpasses the righteousness of the most righteous people you know. The scribes and the Pharisees. Like, oh, I guess we're all going to hell. Okay, like that, it would have had that feeling, you know? So what is the Lord saying to us here? Well, obviously, he's not saying that. I think this passage, seen in the context of the other teachings of the Lord, there's quite an important point that's being made. And it's an interesting point because I think there's an application for us in modern times. So basically, the scribes and the Pharisees were really, really, really into rules. They loved rules, and they had over 600 rules and laws. And it was kind of like the idea of religion being something that you make it happen by merely observing external rules. And these guys were really, really good at that. There was all these strange things that they would do in the name of serving God or being holy or being righteous. And what ends up happening is the whole thing was basically counterfeit, really. So you can imagine a guy, let's say they don't want to go into Pilate's praetorium because Pilate's a Gentile, and according to their rules, if you go in there, you become ritually unclean. So we can't do that, but we can orchestrate the murder of an innocent person. You know, what the dichotomy there, like as Father Benedict Groeschel once said, they said their prayers the morning they crucified the Lord. Like, who were they praying to? Okay. So there's this thing that kind of highlights for us, and that idea could also happen for us as Catholics. I've been really surprised over the years having conversations with Catholics who kind of don't get the whole morality thing. I'll give you an example. It's a little bit funny. So I was talking with a friend recently who's quite an older person and quite sick and needed some chicken soup for his Friday meal because he was sick. And he had this other devout Catholic friend who said, you're basically going to hell because you had chicken soup on a Friday, even though you're elderly and sick. And this person believed it, that would, you're now going to hell for that. It's like, well, we need some catechesis here, okay? So there's, I think, a fundamental misunderstanding there. Obviously, the church developed the practice or devotion of abstaining from meat as a sacrifice to honor the day the Lord died on the cross. Although you can find this stuff that tastes just like sausage, but it has no meat in it. It's like, technically, I'm not breaking the rule, even though, like, it really tastes like sausage. Like a lot. It tastes just like sausage. I found out last Friday. Or, I could never have a hamburger, but yeah, let's have the lobster and crab legs, huh? Okay. No judgment on anyone who's sitting around here. Okay. But so you see, like, wait a minute, what's happening here? So how easy it is to kind of not, to kind of misunderstand, like, how does the church, how does Jesus teach us about the morality of what makes us acceptable to God or not, And so if the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees is representative of somebody who's completely ignoring the internal and just completely and totally focusing on externals only and their own strength only, this is kind of, ends up being declared a heresy eventually of Pelagianism. So what is the righteousness that surpasses that righteousness? It's humility It's a dependence on Jesus and his grace, which is necessary, and not trusting in your own strength. So a couple of practical examples. Whenever I give a homily at a wedding, which I love weddings are so special, I will always tell the bride and the groom, if you try to put each other first and love her with all your strength, you're going to fail. Your strength is not enough. Okay, wow, that sounded depressing, okay? But rather, when it's the love of the Lord, then you can love your spouse with a love greater than your best effort, and that's what's needed. It's the grace. In the book on marriage by Fulton Sheen, 3 to get married, the two spouses and God, that necessity of his grace. So Jesus is saying it's not enough just not to kill people, but also that anger of the heart that leads you to want to kill people. So there's an internal corresponding thing, that's so important. And that dynamic can be applied to literally every situation you find yourself in. The internal component, like the quality of your heart. Now, if you want to kill somebody, don't kill them. That's good. Okay, but also to work on that, what's going on in here that makes me want to kill that person or to judge the person or, etc. And so the Lord, the righteousness that surpasses the scribes and Pharisees is the righteousness that comes from Jesus. And so I once heard a talk on this that really helped me. And I thought, well, anytime I talk about this, I'm just going to steal that idea. So, the patron saint of preaching is the good thief, right? Okay. So this idea is not actually from me, but it's from somebody who's really gifted, so I'll steal it. Okay. And he was giving a meditation on the story when Jesus multiplied the loaves and the fishes. So we know those stories, right? There's thousands of people. There's no food. And so they have just a couple of fish and a couple of loaves of bread. Jesus takes it, gives thanks, blesses it, breaks it, and then literally they just keep passing it out. And there's everybody's fed, and there's more left over. And in a meditation on this, the gentleman had this idea, which I never thought about before. And in his meditation, he had the idea that the apostles, who were the ones distributing the bread and the fishes to the people, would have this like basket, and they would go and hand it to the people, and then the basket would be empty, and they would have to come back to Jesus to get more, and then to go out and to bring, and then to come back to Jesus to get more. And so in this meditation, he was highlighting the reality of Jesus as the source. And I've often thought about that in terms of like Catholic morality and even our daily lives. What is needed is that we maintain that constant contact with the Lord, that we resist the temptation of the illusion of self-sufficiency, that I got this and I could do this on my own. But no, we keep coming back to the Lord. That's why daily prayer is so important. I know I don't have to tell you, you're in church on a Friday, but that keep coming back to the Lord. Keep coming back to the Lord. And when you're facing difficulties in discernment of decisions that have to be made, or you're navigating a difficulty where you're over your head, or what's needed is something more than what you actually have, keep coming back to the Lord. Keep coming back to the Lord. It's almost like breathing. After you breathe, you got to breathe again. Keep coming back to the Lord. And in that way, there's a peace, because this whole thing isn't resting on your own shoulders. And then you're not going through this life alone, but rather with Jesus. And Jesus is with you, and that you're maintaining that communion with him, and you're leaning on him, and you're receiving the graces and the strength from him. It is still you doing it, but there's a fundamental internal shift of perspective here. Like, it is the Lord's grace, so that it's like, I'm not just loving you with my best effort, but I'm loving you with the love of Jesus. Like, Jesus, the love you have for this person, like, let that love flow through my heart. It's a very different way to live. And it's the reason why Jesus had to go to the cross. If it wasn't this way, he could have just come and given us teachings. Okay, now you have the teachings, live it. But no, just knowing the truth, it's not, salvation isn't just an intellectual matter, but rather a matter of the heart. And that heart needs to be open to his heart from which all graces flow. Amen.